Alright, in keeping with some of the most popular streamer patterns here, we're going to tie up a woolly bugger. And I'm going to start off with a size 8 streamer hook, and I've got a cone head, a black cone head on there. And again, you can tie these in any color you can think of, bead head, cone head, no head, you name it. I'm going to make this fly a little bit heavier, so I'm going to add some wraps of my lead wire, maybe 8 to 10 wraps, and I'm going to push that in to seat the cone head, and I'll just break off the butt section there and smooth it down with my nail just to make sure it's not going to break off my thread when I tie in. So the thread that I'm going to use is a black 140, and I'm just going to make some turns in front, wrap it up, and then I can just come back and trim off that tail section. Alright, for the tail of this fly, I'm going to use a marabou, and since I'm tying this in all black, I'm going to use a black marabou, and I want to take out a section that is about the same length as my hook shank. So I'm just going to pull out a section here, something that has a lot of movement to it, and measure it up against my hook shank, and then I'll make a couple of wraps and then just trim up. And tie in. Alright, now I'm going to advance my thread all the way down to my barb of my hook just to make sure it's in good, and then I'll come back up to behind the lead there. I'm going to add some flash to this, so I'm going to use a pearl flash, and I'm going to take maybe 3 or 4 strands, trim off the end, and I'll tie this into the side closest to me, measure out to about the tips, and then I'll do the same thing on the other side. So tie it down to the end of the marabou and then cut it off about at the tip. So you can see how that looks then on both sides. So the body, or the next piece I'm going to tie in is the the hackle. And so when I look for a hackle, what I'm looking for is something that has a pretty good taper to it, and something that's relatively long. And I'm going to tie this in by the tip. And again, there's a ton of different ways how you can do this, but I'm going to tie this in by the tip. And so that way it's going to give me the taper that I'm looking for. As it gets bigger, it's going to go bigger towards the head of the fly here. Alright, so the next piece I'm going to tie in, and you can do this with chenille or with anything that you want really. I'm going to use an Astaz, so a flashier material for the underbody. And so this is a black and green variety. I'm just going to take that and I'm going to clean off one of the ends, so that I have a better tie-in point. And I'll tie that all the way back to the marabou again. And I'll just bring the thread all the way up to the cone there. Now I can just start to make my wraps. And when I do this, I'm going to pull the Astaz back so that it doesn't hold each other down. They'll all lay the same way. And then I can just tie it off in the front. trim this. Alright, now you can leave it that long. I'm going to trim this back. Careful not to cut your hackle off. And so I'm just putting in a little bit of a taper and just trimming this down. Alright, and once that's done, then you can start to wrap your hackle forward so that it doesn't catch in your... Alright, so now you can just start wrapping this forward, and I'm just going to take nice even wraps all the way through. To the front of my fly, and I can make some wraps behind, pull everything in front, and then I can trim off my excess here. If you get any strays, you can deal with them accordingly. And I'll just take my whip finish tool, go right around the cone head, tie that down, snip that off, and that's it. So you can see the flash underneath, and then it matches with the flash in the tail. Pretty easy pattern to tie, and one of the most universally effective flies out there. That is the woolly bugger.